Come join us each week as we dive into topics about the joys and the struggles of motherhood. By no means are we experts. We're practically flying by the seat of our pants, or should I say, mom jeans. On this podcast, you will find a judgment-free zone where we discuss not only the best parts of being a mom, but the not-so-glamorous parts too. You can expect unfiltered, real mom talk, humor, grace, and a sense of sisterhood. What makes our podcast unique is that we understand there's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to being a mother. We're not going to pretend that we know everything too, because we definitely don't. We just want a place to share our stories with you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mom Jeans. We're so excited that you are here listening with us, and we want to celebrate because we went live this week, and we've got, I think, over 100 downloads so far in our 2 episodes. A couple downloads in Germany and 1 in Peru, which is awesome. So we're excited. So I brought the bubbly. Do you have your drinks?
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
And I wanted to buy the little bottle, but they only had the big one at the store. So go big or go home, right? All right.
Nothing
here we
wrong
go.
with that.
Woo-woo. We're going global, y'all.
And I'm going to pour it into my Tired as a Mother coffee mug that Michaela bought me. Thank you, Michaela.
That is
I think
awesome.
champagne tastes better out of a coffee mug. Or you hear
I'm
that?
going for a crappy hotel plastic cup. So, cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Well earned.
Cheers, y'all.
And for all those worried, this is a non-alcoholic wine. My mom happened to get it for me for my dad's birthday this weekend, and I had extra. So I was like, perfect timing.
Perfect.
Michelle, you found the best non-alcoholic wine.
I have. There's this awesome website called Boysen, which ends up having non-alcoholic wine. And there's some really, I'm probably saying it incorrectly, but we can link it in the show notes. But, as you're going through pregnancy, or beyond, dry January, etc., it's an awesome website.
What was
Has
that
tons of good options.
non-alcoholic champagne that we had at your baby shower?
Oh, the one from Whole Foods, I think.
Yes.
It's very
That stuff
good.
was so good.
Very, very good. That's my biggest thing is like not drinking during pregnancy has actually been very, very easy. The only thing I sometimes miss is like a glass of red wine and bubbles. Like a good glass of Prosecco or champagne is one of my favorites. So it's cool that there's some other options out there.
My trick during pregnancy, before I knew about all this non-alcoholic wine, was a soda stream. So I would just drink the carbonated water that I would make and add flavors to it just to kind of get that bubbly flavor or texture.
Another thing I like, not the LaCroix. What are those? Spindrifts. Yes. And my friend told me, so her husband would always make her a mocktail when she was pregnant. You need at least 3 ingredients for it to really kind of taste like a mocktail. So Spindrift, maybe a little bit of grenadine or some like lemon or lime juice or whatever you want to put in it. And that was a good alternative for me.
Nice.
What's happening in everybody's world?
So Hannah, our 2-year-old, is really in the phase of pushing boundaries right now. So a big thing that we have for her is that she cannot eat on the carpet because she is very messy and whatever. So her big thing now is to put something in her mouth, walk over to the carpet and put one toe on the carpet. And she'll just stare at you and be like, are you gonna be consistent and say something? And so every time I say it, well, the other day I ran to grab something like off the couch or something, and I had food in my hand, and she goes, no carpet, no carpet, no carpet. And I was like, darn it. So that was fun. And then we have the Aubrey rolled from her front to her back, and it was like the cutest little thing because she was like cooing and smiling at us, and then she was like ready to go, so she just goes, ah, and then she like did this little jump and then spun over. It was just the cutest little thing. And so she's loving that. Like anytime I put her on tummy time, she's like, nope, I'm going back to my back. So she won't even stay on tummy time. It's awesome. It's such a fun time.
Aw.
But I definitely today got emotional, like, oh my gosh, this is my last baby and it's going so fast. And I love baby stage and I love them so little. It's really hard. So yeah, so that's what's going on with our week.
You can always have another.
Yeah. I don't know.
That laugh just was awesome.
Don't cut that one, Leah.
I almost asked Brandon the other day if he was considering, because he was like so cute with Aubrey. I was like, is it changing your mind at all?
It's weird because like he was so like he only wanted one, and we've talked about this before. And then I was like, no, I want to make sure our kids have siblings so that they can entertain each other, so that we get a break once they get old enough to entertain each other. And like he was super pro vasectomy, like as soon as I got pregnant with Hannah or with Aubrey, and he hasn't said anything about it. And I'm like, are you considering another? He's not. He's definitely not. But anyway, I'm like on that page. Like I said to Michelle last episode, I have pregnancy envy big time right now of her. So I'm very jealous.
How about you, Michaela? First of all, where in the world are you calling in from? What's going on?
I am coming to you live from the Fairfield Inn in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow.
So I know, thrilling
And
work
did we see a
adventures this week.
plastic cup that your bubbles were in?
Oh, yeah.
That is
Only
living
the
large,
finest at this Marriott. Thank you. I'm just here traveling for work, left the husband and my fur baby at home. I don't know that I have any fun, exciting aunt updates. I know I'm really bummed that I've missed the last 2 episodes. That's also thanks to my crazy work schedule this month, but I'm excited to be back this week and chatting with you all about whatever it is we're going to chat about.
Michaela, I will say that some people have been tuning into our podcast and they're really excited to hear your perspective and are loving that you're on the podcast. I've had one of my best friends and then my cousin both messaged me and was like, I really want to know more about Michaela. So hopefully we can have a future episode all about you. I would love it.
It'd be a pretty short episode, but I'm happy to be here and to share whatever questions come up, whatever perspectives I can. I'm happy to know that I'm at least adding some value as a non-mom to a mom podcast.
Well, and we teased that in the first episode that we definitely want to have an episode with you and a couple of our other friends that chose not to be moms, because I think a lot of people would actually tune into that and really be interested to hear your reasons and their reasons of why not. And I would love to interview you guys on those on that episode. So look forward to that in the future. We'll get that on the docket.
Let's do it. We'll save it for another day.
Yeah, and I'd even add maybe someone who's kind of getting to the end window of their, I don't know, their, what's the word I'm trying to say here? Like their fertility window, if you may. So being able to start thinking through options for yourself, you know, depending on your situation and how you weigh those options.
Well, Stephen is out of town this week, and on Saturday at music class, Stephen decided not to go with us. And while we were there, Wesson decided to start standing for the first time. So he was standing and dancing at music class. I think he was really motivated because he was the only one in the class who wasn't walking yet. And aside from Aubrey, obviously Aubrey's not there yet. So Stephen was bummed that he missed him standing. And then we were FaceTiming with Stephen tonight, and Wesson started walking. And so I was like super excited that he did on FaceTime so that Stephen and I got to see it together. So it was really fun, and I've been very giddy all night. He didn't go far. It was probably like 5 steps or something, but it was exciting. It was pretty fun.
That's amazing.
It was like over FaceTime, so Stephen and I got to share it because I like didn't want him to miss another thing. So Weston chose a good time to take his first steps.
Oh my gosh, that's
That's
awesome.
funny that he started moving around like that and standing at music class with all the other kids. Do kids have pack mentality like dogs? I'm sorry, I relate everything with babies to
That's
dogs.
the whole Montessori way, and that's why like Montessori puts you in groupings of 3 years so that you can learn from the older kids faster. So I mean, not to say that that's what's happening, but that is a theory.
Well, that's awesome that Weston is walking. That's amazing. Weston has been kind of standing with support, and then he'll let go. And then when he realizes he's standing, he drops down. He's like, no, I want to
Yeah.
sit down. He'll walk with support. He loves like holding my hand and just walking around. And we were walking around yesterday, and around about the 10th time that we went around the couch, I'm like, oh, my back hurts. I want to sit down. Like, maybe he'll just start walking on his own. I had that thought. And as soon as I had that, I had mom guilt flood right in and be like, I shouldn't wish this moment away. And then, of course, I'm just thinking like, there's one day he's going to let go and not hold my hand anymore and want to do it on his own. I'm going to cry, you guys. I've been really emotional. I know that I should be present in the moment, and I am for the most part, but I have found myself thinking about the future and just how fast this time goes. I looked at Ryan the other night, and we put Weston down. I'm like, this is going to go by fast, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And then I started bawling, and Ryan won't admit it, but he was all teary-eyed. So I feel like I've been a little sentimental this past week, just thinking about those things, like the first, but then also like the last. So Lisa, when you're talking about, not like this being your last kid, I feel that, and it makes me like, I can't imagine that stage,
It's
so
hard.
it's hard.
You know what though? I'll say one thing, like every stage that Hannah's gotten to has been my favorite stage. So it's like, yes, I really like, it's really hard, but it's also like, oh my gosh, how cool is it that now she's putting sentences together? Like, you're so proud and you're so like, yes, I miss her as a little baby, but it's also like so cool to see, like, I made that and she's awesome and she's testing her boundaries by putting her little toe on the carpet. But it's just like, I know what you're saying though. It's hard, but it's so cool to watch them continue to learn.
It is, yeah. So I just need to tell myself, be more present in the moment, and not think about when he gets married and leaves me. 'Cause I do have those thoughts. I'm like, he's gonna get married and I'm not gonna be his number one anymore.
Danielle, I think I was like 8 weeks postpartum, and Steven walked in and was like, why are you crying? I was like, because he's going to get married.
I've done the same thing. Ryan's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, those hormones, they get you.
I have a question for you guys. I know we still need to hear about your week, Michelle, but did you guys expect, or let me put it this way: before you guys had kids, did you feel this sentimental or emotional when it comes to babies? Because I know some women do, like they love babies, but
I did not.
Mm-mm.
and it totally changed. When did it change? Did it change when you had the kid? Did it change while you were pregnant?
I'd say after. And after probably I got through postpartum too.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Mhm.
It probably wasn't even immediately after having Hannah. I would say it's probably closer to like 3-4 months after Hannah. But even still, like Brandon says all the time, I love my kids. I don't love other kids as much as I love my kids, obviously. And it doesn't make me love kids more that I have kids.
Yeah, I get that. It's just so interesting to me, like just to see, like I know we talked about this, I think in the first episode, but I knew all of you guys before having kids, and so to see how emotional you guys get about certain things that when it comes to your kids or now other children just in general, because now you have that mom mentality. It's just really fascinating to me. So I was just curious if you guys felt that before having kids and that was part of the drive to want to have kids, or if that really came after seeing your creation and watching your children grow.
Yeah, I would definitely say after. Like even I think I was texting in the group chat today, just hearing other moms' stories, with their struggles, their journeys, to get pregnant. I have a lot of friends who, had a hard time. And, I'm like, wow, that's really sad, but it didn't hit me on a level like it does now. Like, I can feel it in my bones. I can feel it in my soul. You tell me a story, I'm going to cry with you. Like, and before I didn't get it. I didn't get what, I don't know, having something so precious. And then I'm lost for words for it. Like, I have chills thinking about it. It's a different feeling I get. And just, I feel like I'm on a different level of understanding.
It's kind of like you said, Danielle, and I think this is an awesome point. I have a really good girlfriend who had a daughter about a year older. She's about a year older than Hannah. And she helped me to validate a lot of my feelings, which was such a great, great feeling. Like, a lot of people I talked to said, oh, yeah, we didn't move our kid to the crib from the bassinet until 6 months. And then my girlfriend was like, oh, yeah, I moved my kid at 2 months or 2 weeks. She moved her at 2 weeks. And I was like, oh man, that makes me feel like I can do it and I'm not a bad mom and I'm not feeling all this guilt because my girlfriend did it too and I'm here with her in solidarity, right? And it's just like, it's amazing how hard we are on ourselves. And I was going to say that to you when you were talking about having that guilt of not staying in the present moment is that it's so, we are too hard on ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves. Like I said to you, Danielle, about that girl who made a comment to you at the gym today. I bet you she went home and beating herself up for saying what she said to you. And it really was harmless and it would have been a flippant, no big deal. But it's like, we're so hard on ourselves as moms. I was always hard on myself, but man, the guilt of feeling like if I do one wrong thing, that kid's messed up their whole life is just a terrible way to live. Don't live like that.
Yes, and for context, she wasn't even meaning it in a bad way. I just felt like, wow, maybe I should have brushed Weston's hair. I did. We were at the gym. She's like, I just love it. You just come to the gym each week, and it looks like just rolled out of bed, didn't brush his hair, like messy hair, don't care. Like she did not mean it in like ill or mean at all. But then I looked at him. I was like, maybe I should have brushed it better. Maybe I should have put product in it because his hair gets staticky. It's real fine and it just sticks up. Same. He's got a lot of hair. And so I felt like a bad mom. Like I just brought him out. I was like, at least I changed him out of his PJs. Okay. That's what I wanted to say. But she didn't mean anything by it. But yeah, you definitely put it in perspective for me. So that it made me feel better.
As many days as I possibly can, I have Sierra in pajamas as long as possible. She doesn't like having her hair brushed. So I'm like, you know what? She's happier without it brushed and living her best life that way. So,
except she was wearing the world's cutest outfit today. Like she looked like a little Anthropologie model baby.
With very messy hair.
She looked great. She was adorable.
We still don't brush Hannah's hair, and Hannah's 2. So yeah.
So how's your week been, Michelle?
It's been good. Let's see. Baby number 2 is the size of a baseball, which is exciting. And then today I had a mobile phlebotomist come to my house to do the genetic screen. So in a couple days, the data will be discovered on the sex of the baby. We won't find out for a couple weeks, but it's going to be there. Sierra's doing great. We started out with a really good sleep week, and then we've kind of faltered since then. I think she's teething with 2 more teeth coming through, so I'm hoping if once those pass, it'll be a lot better. And yeah, she's rocking and rolling. She too took her first couple steps a week ago, but we can't get past like 5. It's just like, and when she wants it, it's there. So we're not trying to rush her. Enjoying those few moments though. It's fun. But I will say, Sierra has not twerked the way Weston and Weston have. I don't think we can really show it here, but we got videos over the weekend of Weston and Weston twerking on basically leaning up against cabinets, and it was very impressive. The hip mobility in those 2 babies is very impressive.
They were getting it for sure. Weston loves to dance. I'm pretty sure he gets that from me. I love to dance too, and yeah, I mean, you can't teach that.
No, Wes loves to dance too, and I don't know where he gets it because it's not from Steven or myself. Michelle, are you guys finding out anything else from the genetic testing or just the sex of the baby?
So we hope to get the whole profile of the genetic screen. So, they'll test for a lot of things. We're using the Panorama kit. So we'll get a call from our OB in a couple days, just to make sure everything is there and looks okay. We also did, before we got pregnant, we did a genetic scan as well to see if we were carriers for anything. I personally was not, so we ended up not having to test Ryan as well. Sometimes they suggest if the mom is a carrier, then to also test the dad to see, just to be aware. We're doing it because if something comes back on the test, we'd rather be prepared and rather like have that information. But we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. So it allows you also to find out the sex of the baby more like 12, 13 weeks versus the anatomy scan, which might be a good segue to our second trimester. So we're going to talk about the second trimester today. I have entered it basically as of, well, I will. Tomorrow will be my first day of my second trimester. And it's often dubbed as the golden trimester, typically from weeks 13 to 26. And not always, as Leah shared, but commonly the first trimester symptoms seem to fade away. It's a very energetic trimester, as a lot of people talk about. There's a boost of energy. There is that sigh of relief you can take in some capacity, because while the risk of miscarriage isn't zero, it drops pretty significantly into the second trimester. And on par with every topic we've discussed, each of our trimesters and our experiences have been vastly different. So we're going to break down our golden trimesters into 4 sections. We're going to talk through the physical experience we had, the pregnancy milestones that happened in this trimester, ways we started prepping for labor and having a newborn, and then finally, I think, which would be an interesting topic, all the social milestones, pressures that exist in our society, such as announcing on social media, doing a baby shower, registries, and all those things that come with it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So shall we dive in? So let's first start with the physical. Lisa and I have the pleasure of living next to each other, and we have gone on many long walks with our dogs and now entered children. And one of the things that while she was pregnant and I wasn't, I remember her telling me is like, I've never felt more confident in my body than when I was pregnant. And so I'd love, Lisa, for you to start there. What does that mean to you? And, what was your body image during pregnancy like, and especially in that second trimester?
The big thing is that I grew up very body conscious. Unfortunately, like my mom was a constant, oh, I can't eat that. Oh, I can't believe I ate that. Oh, and she would say that all in front of me. And of course, then I'm going to get that perception on my body, right? And so was always very self-conscious. Like my best friend growing up had the flat stomach, and oh man, I would have given anything to have that flat stomach. And she's like, I would have given anything to have your boobs. So it's always the grass is greener, right? But being pregnant, obviously you don't start showing right away, but once you start showing and people are like, clearly she's pregnant, not like oh, she ate a big burrito today. I felt very much like, oh, I'm not supposed to be flat stomached. This is the best. It's such a great feeling, not feeling like, oh, somebody's going to see me eating this French toast with a pound of, syrup on it and a Mile High whipped cream tower on it. It was like, I'm supposed to look like this. I'm supposed to do this for my baby and for me. And I loved that. I absolutely loved that. I loved the attention, which is funny because typically growing up, I tried to avoid the attention, but then, this is the end of you ever getting attention again. So I was like, it's so fun when people would, and especially like, we've talked about this many times, like not knowing what we were going to have for a baby, a boy or girl. It was like people would come up and be like, are you having a boy or a girl? And I'm like, I don't know. Tell me what you think. That was a fun thing for me too. So I think that was the biggest thing for body image for me, was just for once in my life, I wasn't like, oh, I'm expected to look like the all-American model, which not many of us do. So
I remember you sharing that with me when you were pregnant and I wasn't pregnant, that you felt so confident in your body. And I was like, I don't understand. Like I couldn't comprehend it. as soon as I started to show, I was like, I know what Lisa means. Like, this makes sense. And it was the first time in my life I ever wore anything that was skin tight.
Right?
And then that was all I wore. I wore skin tight dresses. I had the same
Yes.
dress in like 8 different colors. I wore it every single day. And I was like flaunting it. I was rocking it. I loved it. It felt so good. The one thing, how you were like, how people were giving you the attention that I thought was weird was the unsolicited rubbing of the belly. I don't know. I feel like it was maybe you, Michaela, who was like, well, maybe you should pat them back. And so I did that to somebody.
I think it was
time.
Lexi. I think it was my sister that suggested that. It was a great suggestion.
10 out of 10 recommend that to anybody. If you feel uncomfortable with people rubbing your belly, just rub theirs back. Works every time.
I was lucky I never got that. Nobody ever was like, oh, can I touch your belly? And I was like, that's awesome. Thank you for not doing that. Because even if I felt good about my body, my stomach was always like, don't touch. You're going to feel my fat.
It was especially weird for me at work when people would come and touch my belly because of my profession and what I do. For people to come be touchy-feely with me, it was very, very uncomfortable. But we worked through it. Thanks to Lexi's sound advice.
It's funny because the only person that asked me to touch my belly was Matt, Lexi's husband. He was like, can I touch your belly? I'm like, I was like, you won't be able to feel him yet because I haven't really felt him either. But if you want, and he's like, well, now I feel really awkward because if you know Matt.
Yes.
I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, you can if you want. And then I felt bad because I think I made him embarrassed, but it was really funny. And yeah, I've never had anyone come up and rub my belly except the week before I was supposed to give birth. My mom and mother-in-law would just come up and touch my belly. And I'm just like, I would move and they were like, where are you going? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. But yeah, they would. I would just all of a sudden, but they also rubbed my feet too. So
I'd be in for that.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I'll free belly rubs if I get foot rubs.
I was just going to add in, when we talk about positive body image, I too, for the first part, I never wore tight clothes, and I did a little bit in my first pregnancy, and it was still a little uncomfortable, but there was so much that felt a lot of positive body image. But I will still say, like, as someone who has really navigated body image my whole life, like, I still look back at some pictures and I'm like, oh, I looked fun pregnant there. But other ones, I'm like, I looked like a beach whale. And it was hard to look back at some of those images and to really savor that time together. So I'm kind of in the camp of there's a lot of body positivity, but there's a lot of low positivity for me too, or low body image as well. And, in the second trimester, I'm trying to navigate it myself. Like, I'm showing faster than always, but I'm noticing I don't have my cute baby bump from my first pregnancy. I had so much excess skin and stomach. So I took a picture this weekend and it just for me did not look like a cute pregnant person at all. And I feel very self-conscious by looking at it or thinking about that picture. And so once I looked at it, we took more photos with the family, and I felt like I needed to rearrange and put Ryan in front of me and Sierra there. And so it's just something that, like, I do want to, echo that there's so much positivity that can come from this, because I'm so amazed at what our bodies can do. And like you said, you could eat what you want, but I'm also still navigating my own body talk in my own mind. And especially on the second one, I haven't found myself wearing tight clothes at all. Granted, it's winter, but I'm sitting here in a huge sweatshirt and leggings every single day. So it's something I'm just personally trying to navigate, and I just want to respect others, people going through it as well.
And the thing, I think this goes along with non-pregnant people too, is that we are so critical of ourselves, and we grew up in an era of being so body conscious, and it's amazing. Leah and I have talked about this many times before. I look at pictures of myself 10 years ago when I thought I was fat, and I'm like, I would give anything to have that body now. And I look at myself now and I'm like, the sad part is 10 years from now, I'm going to say, I would give anything to have that body now. And like Danielle was saying, trying to live in the present. Like, I think it's really also having daughters, you and I have daughters, Michelle, is like, how do
Yeah.
we try to love our bodies so that they don't grow up with the poor feeling towards their bodies the way we did? I don't want that for them. I would avoid that any way I could. I would avoid that for them. It's so sad, and unfortunately boys have that too, like we don't talk about it, but boys have that as
Totally.
well, and it's so amazing. I mean, I again tooting, and super lucky that I'm not tooting my own horn, is that
Let it out, girl.
going I went to Europe, and I just remember being on the beach in Italy, and there were women of all sizes in their bikinis loving life, and they were so like not conscious at all. They were not self-conscious in my eyes. From what I was seeing, they were having a great time, and I was like, why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we worry so much about our bodies? I mean, think about how many productive things I could have been doing in the time I was worrying about what I look like, because nobody else really cares. You are who you are to them, sad.
I was going to go back to what you said, Lisa, earlier, of how, like what your mom would say. My mom was also very hard on herself. Like, I can't eat that. That's too much sugar. It's like, it's not good for me. It's not healthy. And so, and my grandma was the same way. And so when I'm looking at, in my eyes, two beautiful women who I think are, beautiful, and they're saying this, not intentionally, but now I'm feeling that, that I have to look a certain way or be a certain weight. And so I was dieting in high school. Like, I had an eating disorder. I would skip lunch. I wouldn't eat. I would try to be sick, but I couldn't. So that I couldn't do that. But I would skip meals. I would exercise excessively and then do sports at the end of the day. And I was just depleting myself of like energy and the calories that I needed, but no one even noticed either. So it wasn't extreme, but I did find mentors as I got older. It wasn't until my mid-20s that I felt like I had a healthier relationship with food. And I'm still working on like trying to say more positive, things about myself when I look in the mirror. Like, for me, it was my legs. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like my thighs are huge. But instead, I try to be like, my legs are strong. I get up every day. I can walk. I can run. So I had a poor body image. So when I was pregnant, I was actually surprised on the positive like body image that I had. I think at this point I've already worked so hard to change my perspective. I went into it knowing that, and again, TMI, but I feel like when I had sex, I was like, this is awesome. I don't have to suck in. It's just out there, and I don't have to worry. I didn't worry about what I look like because I was pregnant. So that's the reality. That's the truth. So now I'm blushing. It could be the bubbles.
The bubbles.
Well, like you said, like we all kind of grew up in that era where everybody is very heavily weight focused, and my parents are no exception to that rule. Similar to you, Danielle, I had a severe eating disorder, but it was in college. And I was extremely anorexic and very, very thin, and getting complimented by family members of how good I looked. And so, that's, like you said, nobody noticed that you were losing weight. Well, people noticed that I was losing weight and said, great job, keep going. And I was incredibly sick through a lot of things. And actually, I know we're talking about the impacts to women, but I've had to have conversations with family members since Weston's been born of stop that negative self-talk. I don't want to hear it. I don't want him to hear you talk about your negative body image. And I know that we all struggle with it, but I think that reframing, like you said, Danielle, my legs are strong. They get me out of bed every day. We're all doing the best that we can to be as healthy as we can. I have family members who are starving themselves because they think that they're not skinny enough, and they need to continue to lose weight. And so I've had some strong conversations with people of, please don't talk like that in our house. Please don't talk like that around our kid, because it impacted me so heavily. And men can have body issues as well. And I don't want that to be something that is a generational curse that we pass down to him as well.
I was going to also end this topic with a song that we can link to on Spotify as well. It's called I Love My Body from Mother Moon. My hairstylist taught me about this song that she sings to her daughter every day. The lyrics start with, I love my body from my head to my toes. I love my face, my eyes, my mouth, my nose. And it's just a really cute story that we can all remind ourselves as well. But, body image is a journey for life, but it's something that I really hope we can all continue to look at ourselves as strong and find ways to be healthy and advocates for our children as well.
When did you first feel Weston? And Lisa, when did you first feel Hannah and Aubrey? And Michelle, when did you first feel Sierra?
I was just about to say too, as looking back in my notes, because like that is something I am so excited about in this second trimester, right? I remember feeling a flip around 13 weeks because on my friend's bachelorette party, I was like walking around in Austin, Texas, and I was like, oh, what's that? And then I can't exactly remember when kicks happened, but I know it was sometime in this trimester. And, Dr. Google on my other screen here says it happens typically between 16 and 25 weeks. So I'm just can't wait till that happens.
Yeah, for Hannah, I was at 20 weeks when I first felt a kick. And then Aubrey, it was 16 weeks. So definitely, and you pop faster. I popped faster on my second pregnancy than I did on my first, which they say is very common. So
yeah. None of my clothes fit.
Yeah.
Mine was 16 weeks too.
16 weeks. How about you, Leah?
I felt Wes at 17 weeks, and I wasn't sure the first time I felt him because it felt like a gas bubble. And then I had an appointment with the OB the next day, and she's like, yeah, if you feel like a gas. And I was like, that was it. And then I felt it every day after that.
Oh my gosh. It's the coolest thing.
It is the coolest.
Going back to Michaela, like your comment about like, when did you start really developing an attachment to children, babies, your own? Like, I feel like it happened to me in waves. Like finding out I was pregnant was one, but then like feeling the baby in my belly, that was another like level unlocked. And then of course having her, and then postpartum too. So let's talk through just like how we felt in the second trimester. I know, Leah, you had a lot of still nausea. I'd love to hear kind of your physical experiences then. And then I thought I could talk a little bit about my back pain that I had pretty significantly in the second trimester. And then all of us, I'd love to hear kind of how we took care of ourselves, because that's super important and something I'm trying to really bring front and center again, because I feel like I'm too busy to take care of myself, but I need to as we go into this trimester. Leo, what did you physically navigate in your second trimester?
I vividly remember one day sitting in my office as I was actively vomiting into a trash can. And my sister-in-law and I were only 2 months apart in our pregnancies. And she had texted me, because I think it was like the day or a couple days after I had made it into the second trimester. And she said, isn't the second trimester great? I was like, well, nothing's changed for me, unfortunately. So I continued to still be sick through the second trimester. And nutrition was important, and sleep was really important. So my boss actually got me a padded bench for my office. And she's like, I'm not telling you to take naps on your lunch, but here's a little bit more of the equipment to do so if you need it. And so I appreciated her support, because she could tell I was really tired and physically depleted in many capacities. So I did. I took some naps on some breaks at work when I could take that opportunity, and then just continued to try and take care of myself nutritionally and get some fresh air. Fresh air was really good and really important for me, still
Mm,
is on a daily basis. It's really important for Wes as well. If he's crying, I take him outside and he seems to stop.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, physically, the second trimester, not too much changed. I still wasn't gaining any weight, but I was showing and getting a belly, and which I loved, as we just said. Um, so yeah, it wasn't too much different physically, other than just being a little bit, even just a little bit more tired than I was before.
I had, didn't have much nausea. This trimester, I had or last night or 2 nights ago, my first bout of heartburn, which I think we all have experienced at some degree. I was like, no, it's too soon, but that's okay. But the real big hurdle I had in my first pregnancy was this just excruciating lower back sciatic glute pain. It lasted a good 6 to 8 weeks. And I remember trying to find some relief. I tried acupuncture, I tried PT, I tried chiropractor, tried massages, and nothing, and did prenatal yoga every Thursday and stretched as much as I could. And I really couldn't get much relief. And that was so frustrating. I think that it limited me walking. And I just remember breaking down to my acupuncture I'd met 2 minutes before, being like, I couldn't imagine being in this much pain and having to lift a baby and having to have that. So I have a lot of nerves going into this second trimester, that some of that's going to come back, and thankfully it's not. But I'm just trying to be really conscious right now of, putting Sierra on both of my hips and trying to balance that out and trying to stretch. But just like the first time, I don't know what caused it, and I really don't know what healed it beyond time. And then eventually having Sierra really relieved it all. There's a lot of physical pain, but I'm glad, at least in that first pregnancy, I made a lot of time to try to get the treatment I could. And eventually, PT and dry needling were probably the number one things that made the most impact. You can still do all of that while you're pregnant, which is nice. And I found someone here who focuses on kind of prenatal care, and she was fantastic helping me navigate that.
Well, I also went to PT. A lot of my pain is in my neck through my shoulder, and then
Mm,
sometimes my lower back too, which really, when it was more third trimester when that pain started for me and my hips and stuff. But I was going for my shoulder, and just being pregnant kind of added that pressure. So I did a lot of yoga. I feel like that helped loosen me up. But with, is it prolactin or lactin? What is
the relaxin
the relaxin? There we
hormone
go.
that
Yeah.
is released.
So I was a
Yes.
little more stretchy than
Yes.
normal. I felt like, yeah. I did go to PT. He kept recommending to go to a chiropractor, and I got one massage, but I was so nervous. I know you're not supposed to get it first trimester, but after that it's good. And I was tense the whole time because I was stressed about it, because I worried about everything.
Yeah, I definitely, I was looking at my notes. Sorry, it looks like I'm looking at my phone the whole time, because I'm looking at my notes between the two. With Hannah, I felt great. Michelle knows this because she joined me on a lot of my walks, but I walked at least 2 miles a day every day through Hannah's whole pregnancy. And it was awesome. It was great. I had, some pain towards the end of the third trimester, but that was literally from overwalking with Hannah, with Aubrey.
Yeah, Lisa's at her due date the week, and she's like, "Do you want to go on a 4 mile walk today?" And I was like, "Yes, but I'm bringing a walkie-talkie in case our service doesn't work. I'm training on what do we do?" Because back then I was second a contraction happened, she's going into labor, and we're gonna have this baby in the woods. That was my mindset. But you're amazing.
Yeah, I definitely, like you guys had said, had acid reflux really bad, really, really bad. And I started to learn, I'm looking at my notes now. I started to learn towards the 24-week period that my acid reflux was really kicked up by eating sugar, which is my thing. I love ice cream, I like chocolate, I like sugar. So I realized that when I stopped eating that, my acid reflux got a lot better. And that was really hard for me, because I was like, I'm supposed to eat everything I see when I'm pregnant. This was really hard. I didn't enjoy that. I also had a note that I was really congested throughout my second trimester with Aubrey. I did also get prenatal massages. I love my massage therapist. She's the best. She's like, it's really funny because she's like my mental therapist and my physical therapist all in one. We talk about a lot of stuff. She's fantastic. And then I'm just looking at my notes. Like I played volleyball just until 16 weeks with Hannah, but with Aubrey, I think I went to like 24 weeks, 25 weeks. I pushed with her, and Michaela and Michelle play volleyball with me, and Michelle was like, I'm going to run into you. I'm so scared of you. So, it's funny that second pregnancy, you're kind of like, these babies are resilient. They really are. I mean, I'm so thankful I was able to be pregnant a second time because I enjoyed it a lot more than I did the first time. The first time, like Danielle said, I was so afraid of everything. Like anything I would do, I'd be like, oh my gosh, other than getting on the quad with Michaela when I shouldn't have on my first pregnancy. But, whatever. It's fine. She's fine. She's totally fine.
I think ended up being fine. I also don't forget that you did a couple of Zumba classes with me too.
That's right. I did do Zumba with you. It's funny because it makes me sound like I'm this like huge workout person. I don't work out ever. So it's walking is a big thing for me. I'm not a runner. Leah is amazing. She's an amazing runner and enjoys running. And that's awesome. Oh, and my hands were really hot with Aubrey. It was the weirdest thing. Like and I looked it up, that's a thing, but like my palms were always just scorching hot with Aubrey in the second trimester.
Interesting. I was reading a wives' tale around cold feet, whether it's a boy or girl. And I've, telling myself I've had really cold feet lately. I've been having my slippers on, so we'll see if that means anything.
Is it a boy or a girl if you have cold feet?
Boy.
I had cold feet the whole time.
I was going to say, Michelle and Ryan are having a boy 100%. I'm throwing it out. They're having a boy. I know they're having a boy. It's okay.
No, you don't.
I have terrible intuition, so don't take that for anything.
My gut saying girl to be.
Yeah. My gut said boy the whole time, and it was wrong. So there we are. There we are.
Lisa, was there any reason that it said that your hands get hot?
It has to do with a blood flow thing, I think. I don't remember what it was when I looked it up, and I was like, as long as they say it's normal, I'm not going to look any further. That's all I was worried about. So
preparing to hold your baby and keep him warm, is that what it is?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. So strange.
That's funny. My feet and my hands were cold the whole time, but they're always cold. I feel like I have poor circulation. But that's awesome. You played volleyball. I went and visited Michaela and Bryce, and I was scared to play volleyball. I think I was probably 16, or maybe 18 weeks pregnant. I was like, I really want to play. And I just sat on the sidelines and watched Michaela, Bryce, Ryan, and their whole team play. And I was like bummed. But before we went, I was craving milk. I'm like, can we stop and get some milk? Because I think all you had was oat milk at your house. And I was like, I need some whole milk. So we did. I was drinking my milk on the sideline watching the volleyball game.
I do remember that. Yeah, stopping at Circle K at like 7 o'clock at night because Danielle needed milk.
Yeah.
Real milk.
I don't know what it was about milk, Danielle. I had that same craving for both of them. I wanted milk so badly.
Yeah. I have to be honest, this milk is actually giving me like an aversion. I have always hated milk, and like thinking about drinking whole milk is making me a little queasy.
Oh, okay. We'll stop talking about it.
I wouldn't drink it for 15 years. And then all of a sudden when I was pregnant, I was like, I need it. I felt like, and I don't know if any of you guys are Twilight fans, like how she drinks the blood for the vampire baby. That's how I felt like the milk was. Like I needed it for the baby. The baby needed the milk now.
Yeah, I drank a lot of milk. And then you were talking about working out. I also, I was a PE teacher at the time. I was teaching weight training and health. And so I have it's a physical job. I'm on my feet all day. So I had to buy like shoes because my feet hurt by the end of the day. But I would work out with my classes. We do HIIT workouts as well. And I remember I'm like leading the class, doing the exercises with them. And this one girl stopped because I guess this other girl was slacking off a little. And she was like, dude, if Miss Danielle can do it and she's pregnant, you can do it too. Because I was like, fully showing, jumping, like doing like jump squats. And so I thought that was funny. I did try to stay active through my entire pregnancy, working out, because I found sitting made my hips hurt worse. So sitting actually made me more uncomfortable. And as long as I was moving, I felt a lot better than standing. So I did try to stay active all the way through until the end.
I played a lot of golf, and I have in my notes with Hannah, I remember I scared Brandon so badly. We were playing golf and I got hit by a golf ball on my wrist, but my initial reaction was like to like bend down and grab it. He thought something happened to my stomach, like a violent pain. And I was like, no, I just got hit by a golf ball. And I was like bawling my eyes out. I thought I broke my wrist. And I was like, so dramatic. It was really dramatic. But yes, I agree. I played a lot of golf. And then also, I'll link this in the bio. Down Dog Yoga app is $20 a year. And they have a prenatal app as well. They also have they have a bunch of stuff, but it's only $20 for the year. But I probably did with Hannah, I did prenatal yoga, I would say easily 3 to 4 times a week. I was really good about that. And the relaxin hormone, that was the best. I was like, I've never been able to get this far in pigeon pose. This is amazing. I'm not a flexible person. So it's really cool. Cool app though. I fully recommend it.
So it's kind of scary, but also interesting hearing you guys talk about all these different physical issues or new things that you dealt with. I will say, I have a long history of having hip and lower back pain that started when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And when I think about not having kids, or when I think about having kids, that scares the heck out of me. The pain that I feel like I would have an absolute miserable pregnancy. And that terrifies me. I'll be completely honest. Would I? I don't know. I mean, my mom had 2 pretty rough pregnancies, so I don't think that helps my thoughts on that either. But that is definitely one of the things that just kind of sits in the back of my head when I think about what it would actually feel like to have kids. So, and I know it doesn't happen for everybody. I also think, Lisa, I would probably have a similar feeling of like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing to not actually care when it comes to body image. Physically, I think I would hurt bad. When it comes to body image, though, I do think that it would definitely take a load off of feeling like you needed to look a certain way. But that's interesting. One thing I will say about working out, Lisa, I love that you mentioned the Down Dog Yoga app. Another workout app that I use quite often is called the Sculpt Society, and I think you guys all know it primarily because of the dancing arms workout that we like to do at the end of late night barbecues. But Megan Roop is the trainer's name, and she does a whole section on pre and postnatal. She's had 2 kids, actually right around the same time as both of your kids, Lisa, which is pretty funny. But amazing trainer, pre and postnatal, really focused on pelvic core. So that's just another resource for any pre or postnatal moms that are looking for a pre and postnatal focused workout. The Sculpt Society.
So, Michaela, I was also terrified to go through pregnancy because I broke my back when I was younger. And I remember the doctor telling me, like, if you ever get pregnant, you will probably be on bed rest because your back's not going to fully recover from this injury and it will be too much weight on you. And so I also remember being so scared of like, what was my back pain going to be like when I was pregnant? And I will say, although I threw up every day, I did not have back pain. I had hip pain and a lot of heartburn when we got to the 3rd trimester, but I was so relieved that I actually was able to manage through and not have that back pain that I'd spent a long time worrying would resurface if I were to get pregnant.
I will say, caveat to my situation that hopefully won't happen. My husband is not a small man, and he was a 10-pound baby, and that terrifies me. Carrie
doesn't let him forget it.
Carrie
doesn't let him forget that.
An angel.
Yes. We love you, Carrie.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I had the worst back pain and here I am again. So it's all worth it. So let's talk through some of the milestones that happened in this one. And it's actually not many, right? Like so much happens in that first trimester. You got the appointments, you got scans, etc. And then for, I don't want to say standard, but for many pregnancies, you actually don't get another ultrasound until your 20-week appointment. So as you're working your way through, almost through the second trimester, where it's called the anatomy scan. And then the other thing that happens towards the end is your glucose test. But other than that, and every pregnancy is different. But when you talk about milestones, those are some of the big ones that happen in the second trimester. So I guess I'd love to maybe hear across the board just what your experience was going through that anatomy scan. For me, it was, you go in, the baby wasn't moving, like she was sleeping according to that. And we ended up having to do 3 of them, and one of them had to go to Phoenix, and they were worried something was abnormal. Turns out after our Phoenix one, it was all clear. But still, it's an interesting one where it's so exciting. You get to see 4 hands, 4 legs, all the fingers, see how things are going. But then it can also bring up a lot of things. How was yours, Leah, Lisa, Danielle?
You saw 4 hands and 4 legs?
Good point. I saw, have you not seen Sierra? She's a walking octopus.
Mom math right there.
In your second trimester, your brain stops working as well. And yes, pregnancy brain is real. It is 9:59. I've had a whole glass of non-alcoholic wine, so
it's only 8:59.
Yes. What did I say?
9:59.
9:59.
All right, someone else talk.
Regardless, it's all past all of our bedtimes. Let's just call that what it is.
You better clip that one, Leah.
I give myself one blonde moment a day, and I just had 2. So I'm just going to stop talking. Tell us about your anatomy scans, y'all.
Mine wasn't very eventful. I don't really remember, I guess. I do. It was exciting to see all
4 hands.
8 limbs. I'm just kidding. I will say the only thing I will add, so you could see Weston's leg. We already knew it was a boy, too, at that time, because they were like, oh, do you know the sex of the baby? And we're like, yes, because they always get worried. Like, they don't want to give anything away. But it was his leg. And I just will say, Ryan was like, that's my boy. I'm like, that's a leg. That's a leg. And we had the little scan, and we had it on the fridge, and anyone that would come over, he's like, yep, that's Weston. Dude, it's his leg. Okay. But that's the only memorable thing I have from that scan. But everything went well for me.
My Hannah was good. Hannah was good at 20 weeks. And again, not knowing what the sex of the baby is like, you're always like gonna, those ultrasound people go through so many ultrasounds a day. So you're like, oh, they're gonna forget and tell us what Hannah is. So I was a little bit nervous about that. But Brandon at the first scan definitely started to tear up, and it was like, oh my gosh, it's a real baby, this is awesome. And then the second scan was when the famous I saw the ovaries, so it's a girl moment happened. But he was like more enthralled by the technology. That's the engineer in him. He thought that was such a cool thing, that you could see the baby moving around and her spine and all of that. Really cool. The skull and stuff like that was really cool for him. So Hannah's was smooth sailing. Unfortunately, Aubrey's was not a smooth sailing. So we were in the scan, and the ultrasound girl was like quieter than normal. Again, we say small town, we have the same ultrasound girl the whole time. Like, we know who she is. She's awesome. But she was quieter than normal, and she's usually quiet and lets the doctors say what they're going to say. But we got into our appointment, and they were like, so you have placenta previa. And I was like, I've never heard of that before. Explain that to me. And of course, you hear like a few little snippets, and then you kind of zone out. Like, I don't know what that means, right? And so I was fine, because I didn't know what it meant, and I wasn't listening. And basically what she said was, let's not worry about it now. It's early on. A lot can happen by the time, you're ready to have this baby. We'll keep an eye on it at your next scan, and don't worry. It's totally totally not something to worry too much about. And unfortunately, I went home and went and consulted Dr. Google, and Dr. Google had me completely freaked out. And I was at work the next day bawling my eyes out because placenta previa, I was going to look up the actual definition so that I don't butcher it, but essentially what the main concern with placenta previa is me bleeding out. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not so worried about myself. I just want the baby to be okay. So I had this panic moment. I texted Leah, and Leah was like, call Audrey, our doctor. And I was like, yeah, for sure. I'm going to call her because she's awesome. And hopefully one day we'll be a guest on this podcast. But I called her and I was like, I'm completely freaked out. I'm so freaked out. I'm worried about the baby. I want to make sure that the baby's okay. I'm not worried about me. She's like, the baby's fine. The baby is doing great. Don't worry about the baby. We're going to be worried about you, but we're not going to worry about that now. Eventually we'll worry about it. But, we have things in place that you'll be all right. And she made a mention that, if it got to a certain point that I would deliver down in Phoenix, because Phoenix we're considered, I have a hard time saying this word, rural hospital. So we're not considered a big city. And so I would have to deliver down in Phoenix, which is 2 hours away, which is, not the end of the world, but also you want to come home when you're, after you've had your baby, and you don't want to be spending all this time down in Phoenix right before the baby's due and all that kind of stuff. So, my mind was reeling for a long time on, okay, is this going to go away? Is this actually something that will get better? That was hard. That was a really hard thing to hear, because then of course, you go through the morbid thoughts of like, are my 2 kids going to grow up without me? Like, am I going to bleed out? Like, is it this serious? I don't know. Like, I didn't know what to expect. So they say that happens, like people over 35, which I was, people who've had previous C-sections. So essentially the placenta sticks to that C-section scar is the way I understand it. Again, I'm not a doctor, and I came in and out of hearing what I wanted to hear there. So that was my 20-week scan, and I got another scan at 24 weeks and 28 weeks. So I essentially got a scan every appointment thereon, which obviously you all know, spoiler alert, Aubrey's okay. She's alive. She's here. So this is great. But it was kind of nice to be able to see the baby that much. It was really cool for me. Another cool thing was that I had Hannah during COVID. So Brandon was only allowed to come to 2 of my appointments for all of COVID time and with Hannah. And then he was able to come to all of my appointments for Aubrey. So he got to see her too, which was really, really cool for him as well.
I shared on the episode talking about IVF that we had an ultrasound at 6 weeks, we had an ultrasound at 8 weeks, but then we waited. So then we just kind of went on the normal schedule with everybody else. So our anatomy scan, we were super excited about. We had heard from everybody that it's the big scan. You get to see the 4 arms, the 4 legs. Wesson is not a walking octopus, so he has 2 arms and 2 legs, but we got to see those on the scan and count all 5 fingers and all 5 toes. And like Lisa said, the ultrasound tech here is awesome. She's great. And she doesn't really say anything, but she let us listen to the heartbeat. And so we were excited. We thought everything was awesome and great. And then we went to the appointment immediately after the ultrasound, and the doctor had told us that we had something called velamentous cord insertion. And so they throw these technical terms at you and you have no idea what they mean. And you can't get to Dr. Google fast enough while you're trying to listen to the doctor and then trying to process what they're saying. And what she had shared with us was that the velamentous cord insertion is incredibly rare, and it can affect the way the baby grows and develops and gets nutrients from me. So what it is instead of the umbilical cord attaching right into the middle of the placenta like it does in a normal pregnancy, is it attaches to an outer edge or a surrounding area of the placenta. The umbilical cord can potentially have less vessels than a normal umbilical cord does when it grows into a normal placenta. And so she spewed all of that at us and totally freaked us out about the growth of our baby and how it's going to impact his development. I remember after that appointment, we went to breakfast, and I remember just sitting there crying, not knowing, and trying to read about it and see how this was going going to impact our pregnancy, that we had really struggled to reach that point. Developmental cord insertion happens in less than 1% of pregnancies, but it is more common in IVF pregnancies. Don't know why. Can't seem to find that information. So if anybody knows why, please write us and let us know. Placenta problems in general are more common in IVF pregnancies. We got that news. We went back a couple weeks later, and kind of like Lisa shared that with Aubrey, she had more scans. We had significantly more scans to check in on the baby to make sure that he was measuring and growing and still getting the nutrients and everything that he needed to thrive. It wasn't great news, but we were under some wonderful care to make sure that my pregnancy was going the way it needed to be. And yeah, we got to see him develop a little bit more frequently than we would have had we not received that diagnosis.
We got to see Weston extra too. I think I've said this before though, because my doctor, because I had COVID, and they were like, well, we want to do tests just to see how he's measuring out. So it was definitely nice to see him a lot more too. It was like every 4 weeks. It was wild.
It's like this really weird period, right? We hear all this excitement about baby, and there's all these risk things that come up. I too have heard all these stories from a lot of my friends. I think there's also this notion that doctors want to be extra cautious and really be careful. So it adds a lot of fear and stress for us. And then there's a lot of, positive outcomes that we hear too. But I also know that a lot of times that extra caution does result in, some complications for a baby, for mom, for birth. And while we all have stories, I just don't want to take away from those of you listening that have had really complicated trimester, second trimesters, anatomy scans, pregnancies, because we want to hear your stories. We'd love to talk through other stories and how you've navigated that and how you navigated through pregnancy and beyond. It's a very layered topic. The highs are high and the lows are low. I remember being like, oh, the second trimester will be a quick one. We barely have anything to talk about, but we're cranking through a lot of topics. So let's talk about planning for labor. I know all of us had hospital births. It's always something you see these home births and it looks magical. Don't think any of us have. I have a great friend who has had a home birth that I'm hoping we can bring into this episode one day. But one thing I know that Leah and I did, and Danielle, I'm actually not sure if you did as well, but we had birth doulas. And for me, it was something that I thought a doula meant a midwife that delivers you at home. But I learned a lot about this process, that it's really your advocate throughout your pregnancy and then in the hospital for your birth plan, for your mental state, and to really be that extra partner. I personally loved it. And that's when we signed up in the second trimester, and we worked with 2 incredible doulas. And then one of them ends up being on call for your birth. And so that was just something I absolutely loved. And as much as I loved it, I think Ryan, my husband, loved it 10 times more, because none of us have given birth before at this point. And especially the men, it's just such an intimidating topic. They don't know how to be a best partner for you. Him having someone to whisper in his ear on how to do counter pressure during a contraction or how to support me in some ways was really helpful. And he ended up asking them all these questions and more than I have. So that was a really interesting thing that really, as we started planning for labor, we started to think about in the second trimester. Leah, how about you? What was your thought on getting a doula?
I knew I was interested in a doula from the very beginning. And actually, it was one of Steven's friends who had said to him, hey, we had a doula. You guys should definitely do it. And so we were on the same page pretty much right away about it. I really strive in my life to live as natural as possible. And so for me, I saw a doula as somebody who could support in that natural approach to pregnancy and childbirth. So throughout, Michelle and I worked with the same doula, and throughout the pregnancy, they were very supportive. What I really enjoyed is literally being able to text them and ask them any question like, hey, is this normal? Actually, in the third trimester, I ended up in the hospital twice, and they were the ones who told me that I needed to go to the hospital and get checked out for that. They were super supportive through the pregnancy. And then when it came to the childbirth, there was so much value. Like Michelle said, I really think Steven got a lot out of us having a doula. The male support there, I don't think we really expected as much as he would be able to ask her questions, get tips and tricks and tools in his toolkit to help make the pregnancy and the childbirth as seamless as possible. I definitely think if you have access to it, it is worth the investment, the time to have a doula if that's something that you are able to do. And even Spoiler alert, I had an emergency C-section, but even with an emergency C-section, the doula was able to provide tremendous amount of support and help and guidance through that process.
I have a different, feeling towards the whole doula thing because my first pregnancy, I didn't know about a doula. I didn't know what a doula was. Like I think that's the frustrating part to me. Like this is the same thing. And I'm unfortunately going to probably go into some negative and judgmental here. And it's really frustrating to me as in our healthcare system, they didn't even suggest a doula to me. They didn't talk about a doula. They didn't even say, are you going to use a doula? Like I didn't even know that existed. Right. And I also didn't know that you can get a breast pump for free, like through your insurance. Are you kidding me? So I was using a breast pump that was like 6 years old that I got from my sister-in-law that she never used. And so she's like, yeah, use it. Well, the technology is amazing. And I got an insurance breast pump the second time around. And I wish somebody would have told me that, right? I wish somebody would have told me about a doula, though, I told Brandon after Hannah because it was a very not fun experience. And I wondered if a doula would have helped. But I think looking back at it now, my experience, my body is my body, and there was nothing to do to go around that. I don't, you guys speak so highly of your doulas, and I think that's awesome. I'm also a very budget conscious person. And so when I was like, they cost what? Are you kidding me? Like plenty of people have given birth in the hospital without a doula. I don't need that. And especially knowing that my second go around, I was going to have a C-section. I didn't understand the purpose of a doula. I didn't understand what a doula does for you other than just help you get the baby out, which it sounds like you guys have had amazing experiences. And I definitely encourage people to do their research on that and not listen to me.
Yeah.
I want to jump in on that though, because like you said, it is an investment. It has a price tag that's attached to it. Our doulas specifically have resources and a support fund to provide services to people who are not able to pay for them themselves. And so there are resources out there if people do really want to go down that path of having a doula to make it more affordable and more accessible for those out there.
Yeah. And I was just going to add, I think with a doula, every town, every city, every doula practice is a little bit different. Some range to be, a little more hippie, a little more natural, a little more leaning towards encouraging home births. Others are very science-based and want you to help make your own decisions. So like I encourage everybody, if a doula sounds interesting to you, reach out. All of them should offer consultations. Understand the pricing model. Like agreed, it was not cheap, but for us it was completely worth it. My two doulas were probably the first people in the first group of people who knew I was pregnant. I was like, save the date for August 23rd, but it's not for everybody, and see what works for you and see if it's a good model that fits.
And if you even like the doulas that you meet.
Totally.
If you mesh with them personality wise.
Exactly. And that's so important because in our case, my doula was in the hospital room with me for 26 hours. We were BFFs the whole time. So that is an important dynamic because it's really the three of you, your partner or your doula. And the nurses, show up when they feel like it. But, most of the time, it's just the three of you in that hospital room. Well, let's transition to kind of our last topic of the second trimester. And this is more the social milestones and pressures that come. There's so many we can talk about, but I think some of the first ones that I would be interesting to hear everyone's take on is the question I get all the time. When are you going to announce on social media? Granted, we launched a podcast and I guess I secretly launched to the world that I'm pregnant, but this formal like post on Instagram that the baby's coming. And there's a lot of complexities there. And I want to dive into that because it's a really hot pressure point for those who have had miscarriages, those who are suffering from infertility. Do you want to post this information on social media in general? So let's go into all that. And then how did you think about baby showers? Again, that's I hate having the attention on me. So it was such a weird thing to think through. And then this baby registry, I did not expect it to be such a stressful thing for me, but it really was. So I want to hear how you navigated it. And then, we'll continue to link all of our favorite products that, you can use as your foundation as well. So let's start with maybe the person who's not on social media. Lisa, how did you think about your announcement? How was the world going to know you were pregnant?
It's really interesting. The industry I was in when I got pregnant with Hannah is a very, oh gosh, how do I say that? Nosy industry, and they want to know everything, and then they want to gossip about you. It's like you're in high school. So, it was very like, to me, I didn't want everybody to know my business. And, I'd read a lot about like, your kid isn't making the decision to be on social media, so you got to be careful like what you're doing and what you're going through. And I was definitely very worried about miscarriage, so I also didn't want to announce things and then something went wrong and then everybody knew about it and was constantly asking me about it. I didn't want that either. And I think once I finally had Hannah, it was like I knew keeping up with the Joneses was going to be an issue for me. Like I was going to be like, why, we talked about this before, why isn't your kid on skis at 6 months? Like, I didn't want that. And I didn't want to have that situation. And if I'm not going to post when she's born, then why would I post before she was born that she even existed? Then people can't ask you about what they don't know about. So yeah, I think it was kind of a stunner when we announced that we were doing this podcast, because people were like, interesting, you don't even tell people that you have kids. So this is pretty wild jump for people to be like, holy cow, you have 2 kids? Like, I also have a big problem with social media in the sense of like, if you're close enough to me to matter, I'll text you. I'll share it with you on my own. I worry coming off very like hoity-toity, like, oh, look at me, I'm not on social media. But like, I just re-downloaded Instagram on my phone for this podcast, and I've been on Instagram 8 times today, and I'm like, I hate this. So I will go back and delete that again. But like, social media is a bad mentally for me, and it has more to do with my mentality than it has probably to do with having my kids out there and stuff like that.
That's why this is a complex topic, and but it's so expected in our world today, right? That's the thing that's really frustrating me, that like, I get the question from people all the time, like, and when are you going to post, right? Like, and I think they want permission to tell other people. And I'm, especially for this one, I'm like, you can tell people, I just would rather not post it online, things like that. But Danielle, Leah, how did you all navigate it? Anything that you thought through?
After I told my family early, and I think for my in-laws, it was easy for them to keep a secret, except for Carrie's mother. They don't keep secrets. So that was really hard for her until we could tell her in person. My dad, though, he was so excited. He wanted to tell everyone. He's like, I told my friend at work, I hope that's okay. He doesn't know you. I'm like, that's fine. And he was like, when can I tell, like, he wanted to tell his siblings and, his family. So I'm like, just not yet. I don't know why I had this stigma that I just needed to wait. I was just like, just wait. And then finally I gave him the okay. So I let him tell our extended family before I posted. And then I also made sure to tell my best friends, people that are close to me and our family before I posted it. Because then the rest is just like people I don't talk to very often, right? So I probably didn't even need to post it, because I did want to tell people in person, because I just feel like, for me anyways, to find out if like you're my friend and you find out that I'm pregnant or I'm getting like any exciting news on social media, I don't know, if that was me, I'd feel like, oh, I wonder why they didn't give me a call. So we called people, told them in person. And then when we felt like we had our list that we went on, then we posted it. It was just like a little baby on the way kind of announcement.
We found out that we were pregnant the Wednesday before Father's Day. And so we had ordered my dad a shirt that said something along the lines of, I'm going to be a grandpa or whatever. And you know how our parents are at social media. He immediately posted it on Facebook. And I was
my gosh.
I was like, no, you can't do that. He's like, why? I was like, because we haven't told people yet. So he took it down. And so similar to Danielle, right? We had our list of people that we wanted to tell. That was really important to us because, again, I feel the same way. Like if a friend of mine had some really exciting news and I found out through social media, I think my feelings would be hurt. And so I wanted to make sure that we made it through that list. And then we announced it actually at 10 weeks pregnant, because we announced it on World IVF Day, which was July 25th. And so we just felt like the timing there lined up pretty well. And at that point, as I'd mentioned, our second round of IVF, we had a tremendous amount of support from people around us who knew us well. That at that point, we felt as if anything did happen, we still had a really strong support network in our corner to lean on through that. And so we did an announcement post, a picture with all of the needles that we took through our rounds, that 191 needles, and kind of some data regarding how many appointments we had and things of that sort. Got a lot of people who were very kind with their words. And actually, one of the girls I went to college with reached out and was like, oh my gosh, my baby was IVF as well. I didn't know. And so it kind of opened the door a little bit too for some additional conversation and connecting with others in ways that I didn't know was out there. So I'm not a huge poster on social media, but I have found support through connecting with people on social media.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I was just going to add kind of before we go on to the next topic here is we ended up posting 2, but we waited until 20 weeks. I imagine we're going to kind of go with the same plan if we do decide to post again. If you are a close friend of mine and I have not told you, it's not that I haven't wanted to, but it's happens to be this podcast is live and I will tell you in person, but I think most of my core group does know here. But the only other thing I would I try to be really present about is we all know people going through infertility journeys who've had miscarriages. You don't have to do this, but a tactic I used for a couple of my really close friends, I ended up sending them a text before I posted. And I said, I just want to give you a heads up. I know that these posts can be triggering. And they'd actually posted that on Instagram, that it was really hard to see these baby posts. And so it was one of those things that I just wanted people to get a heads up instead of just a scroll and it shocking them. So just something that you could deploy. You don't have to, but just something that worked for a few people in my life. Well, next up is the baby showers and baby registries. They're kind of going hand in hand because you kind of need a registry and you need a shower. Leah, we were all at your baby shower. What did you think? What was your logic going into the baby shower? And if I can remember, you had the craziest spreadsheet for building your baby registry. What was your strategy and did it work out for you?
Took me 4 attempts and a lot of anxiety to try and build that registry. I was so overwhelmed. There's so much stuff and you just don't know what you actually need. So going back to social media, I actually deployed a story and said, moms out there, what are the things that I actually need? And solicited crowd feedback and got a lot of great responses from people through that, which did really help me build my registry. A lot of my registry was just through conversation with people because I don't know what I didn't know. And it was so incredibly overwhelming to me. It literally wasn't until the 4th time that I sat down to do it that I felt like I actually made any progress. And Stephen was a tremendous help in trying to figure out what we wanted and what we needed. And we were pretty fortunate. We didn't feel like we needed a lot of things. To be completely honest with the registry, a lot of it is because other people want to give you gifts.
Right.
And so trying to make sure that we had it balanced out in a way of accessibility and affordability for people who wanted to contribute, a variety of different gifts. People wanted to give us clothes, which is awesome, but we were actually really, really fortunate and still are that we have a friend who's very close in age, who has a son who has given us everything. And we have bought pretty much nothing for clothes. And so we were actually very specific in, if you're going to give us clothes, please only give us these sizes because we already have this much of these sizes. Caveat to that, I had no idea there was a difference between newborn and 0 to 3 months. Wesson definitely did not fit in 0 to 3 month clothes when he was born and needed newborn clothes, and we didn't have any. So we did go out and buy some newborn clothes when he was born. So the registry was very daunting to me. It was very overwhelming. Baby shower was very overwhelming to me. It was beautiful and it was so well put together. My best friend and my adopted mother did an amazing job at putting it together, but I don't like the attention on me. And so planning a party for myself was very, very uncomfortable. A lot of people have a lot of opinions on what your baby shower should be. And I don't like the attention on me, but I also don't want the attention on me for something that I don't want. So I did have to push back a couple times and say, no, I don't want that. If we're doing a baby shower, we're going to do it my way. I felt like that was one of the only times in my life that I actually kind of like stood my ground. But there were some opinions and recommendations of things that I was just like, that's just not my jam. I don't want to open gifts in front of everybody. I don't want to have a Zoom baby shower. I wanted to be present with the people who were in the room with me. And those were things that were really important to me that other people really wanted instead. I was really glad we ended up doing it the way that we did it. We did a little brunch and it was themed as the Ice Age because our embryo survived the Ice Age. And it was a nice small group of the people that are close to me. Some people traveled from Colorado, some people traveled from the Valley, and it was really awesome. It was a lot of fun. I look back at those pictures all the time and they're so great, and I loved having all of y'all there. And the majority of our family is in Colorado, and so they actually wanted us to have a baby shower up in Colorado over Christmas time. There were two things of why I really didn't want to do that. One was because it was Christmas, and trying to throw a baby shower in the midst of Christmas just sounded incredibly overwhelming to me. And the other was that my niece was due to be born that week as well. So I'm like, we just have a lot going on. We don't need to throw in another mix of a baby shower in there. So we did miss a lot of the family at our baby shower for that reason. We actually didn't even get to end up going to Colorado for Christmas, so it worked out anyways. So we didn't get to have all of our family, but we had a lot of our close friends, and it ended up being like the perfect little brunch party that I would have hoped for. But I do encourage anybody who's trying to plan a baby shower, do what you want and make sure that it's celebrating you and the baby and your partner.
I will say, Leah, one thing that I really appreciated about your baby shower was the champagne. There was no lack of champagne, and for those of us that could drink, it was lovely. I know Allie, who's not on this podcast right now, but hopefully she'll be able to join one day. Her and I had a blast singing to old 90s songs and drinking the bubbles. So, and I can't think of a better way to celebrate you.
Even Granny got in on the champagne. I was like, yeah, girl. The music was pretty good too. I forgot about that.
I live in Montana. Most of my family's from Virginia, and Ryan's family's in Arizona, Hawaii, California, all over the place. So we don't have a lot of people here. And so going back, I wish I had decided not to have a baby shower. And I agree with you, the whole deciding what you need on a registry is hard. I think I could do it now and it would be fine. My sister did send something out and people sent us stuff. So that was awesome. And, so kind that people were sending us gifts. And I wish I just had kept it at that, because I just thought, I was like, oh, well, my in-laws and my parents are coming in for Christmas. We'll just have a baby shower here. We'll invite some of our friends. To be honest, if it wasn't for Ryan's work friends, it would have just been my parents and my in-laws and my sister, and then my neighbor who used to live beside me. And that's it. So I felt almost embarrassed because, again, our good friends all had moved away that we made when we first got here. And I was kind of in between of making new friends. I invited some people I worked with. I know this sounds real cringe and like sad, but it was just kind of, I'd say, pointless. I know that's sad. It's just, for me, my head was going, I was like, wow, this is so embarrassing. No one showed up. But I didn't expect people to fly out into the middle of winter time in Montana when it's below zero. If I could have went back, I would have not had a baby shower at all. My sister's like, well, maybe you should come home and have a baby shower. And I'm like, and then try to fly everything back to Montana. I was like, no, that's okay. So next time I probably won't throw a baby shower. If people want to send me stuff, gift cards and money are as good, because diapers are expensive.
That's actually a good point and a question I have. Michelle, are you going to have a second baby shower?
As the first one, I don't like having the attention on me either, I think. But here's the thing. I had 3 baby showers for Sierra, which is crazy, but it was more that I wanted a small group. If I was going to do it, I wanted a small targeted group, and it worked out with the trip. So I ended up flying back to Wisconsin with my family to see my grandparents who I hadn't seen in a while. And that was a really special, really sweet one. My aunt threw it and she did such a great job, and it was very, very great. And then we had one in Tucson with our Tucson family, if you may, which was also very fun. My in-laws flew out for that one. And then we had one here in Flagstaff with this crew. So, I will say, I feel like I was so self-deprecating the whole time, but it was such a sweet, sweet process and really, really kind. And I felt a lot of honor having them. But I'm going to be probably the same way about the second one. I don't want one. I saw an Instagram post about a nesting party for the second one where they help you like set up your your crib or whatever. So, and they call it a sprinkle, which was a new word for me. I don't need one, don't necessarily want one. I'm not going to put together a registry for this one. If anything, I've just learned like diapers are helpful if you really want to contribute something, because we too have a ton of clothes and need to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't have an answer at this point. I'd say no, but we'll see what happens.
Michelle, I'm happy to paint a nursery wall for you again as part of your nesting party.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Those are perfect things to add it. Speaking of, that's probably another thing, Lisa can talk to. And as you think about second kids, is like the house Tetris we're going to have to start playing. I'm like, where's the second kid going to go? Do we make them share a room? It's all these things to think about. And then based on where we decide, it's going to be like, Michaela, can you please paint this wall? Because we need it. So we'll see what happens. So Leah, I don't know is the answer. We'll see what ends up happening.
We'll see if your friends decide to throw you a surprise baby sprinkle.
Y'all better invite me. I'll fly down.
We have it in recording.
Not necessary.
It's necessary. So Lisa, you've had 2 baby showers, or a baby shower and a baby sprinkle. What's your take on them?
We all have said the same thing. My bigger thing is like, I didn't want people to buy me presents because we have a good amount of friends that don't want kids. And, it makes me uncomfortable if I can't buy you a present back if you bought me a present. So I have a big issue with that. Hence, when Tommy came along, Michaela's dog, I gave him some baby gifts, some new puppy in the house gifts, because it's yep. To me, it's more the present thing than anything. I'm happy to have the shower because you get all my favorite people together. I think that's awesome. And that worked out well for me. I had family fly in from a lot of places, and a lot of, like Danielle said, like a lot of people didn't come. I think it's tough, but my friends threw me a sprinkle for Aubrey, and I will say having one day when you already have a kid that is focused on you and not on the kid is such an awesome reason to get together. So they were amazing and got me a gift, and they didn't have to do that, but even more so, which was cooler, is they had a pumpkin and cheesecake themed sprinkle, which is like right up my alley. That was such a cool, thoughtful thing to me to have, again, to focus on me when I knew once the second kid came, there is just no focusing on you. I think, even if you can get some girlfriends together just to say, hey, life's going to be different after this, it's wonderful to do. And again, the registry was super stressful. I threw one together just quickly, not having a clue what to do. And my sister-in-law called me and was like, so I've had 3 kids, and I can tell you this is a bad idea, this is a bad idea, this is a bad idea, this is a good idea, like items I've never heard of before. The baby Brezza was the game changer for me, which is the formula maker. It's like a Keurig for baby bottles. It's incredible. And that was the one thing I can remember that I got from the baby shower. I can't really remember anything else.
I was just going to add one more thing on the registry is just be kind with yourself. It is such an overwhelming thing. I too posted on Instagram. That was extremely helpful. I actually put together a whole doc of like things people loved and things people hated. We could even link to that as well. And any things that we really liked, we'll continue to link in the show notes and on our website. We have a section called Our Favorite Things, and it's our favorite things in pregnancy, for newborns, and then beyond. So I think that that's just going to be something everyone has to navigate. We ended up going to Bye Bye Baby, which that store is no longer, but that ended up making the registry process even more overwhelming when you were staring at a huge wall of 50 strollers, 50 car seats, and you just don't know what you don't know. So it's really tricky. Dang, we have had a lot to cover in the second trimester. And again, we thought this would be a quick one. All right. Well, to end our mega episode on the second trimester, we're going to close as we always do with our episodes of our hot topic. And so this one brings us far into the future about which poo is the grossest, the worst, the best. I don't know what category would do it. So there's really 3 categories we see here. It's breastfed poops, it's formula poops, and it's solid poops. So there's so much consistency and details about each of them, but I want to start the debate here. Which is the grossest? Breastfed poops, solid poops, or formula poops? Does anyone have any strong opinions?
I would say formula poops, because I feel like breastfed poops, because I breastfed and then did formula. And even though breastfed could have been a little messy and it's yellow, but I don't think it smelled. And then when we went to formula, I felt like it got a little messy and smelled a little bit more. So I felt like that was really gross. And for me, even though solid poops can be a little scary when you first see one, they're so much easier to clean up. And for me anyways, I feel like there's less blowouts with those. So I felt like out of the 3, formula fed was the worst for me.
You said what I'm very passionate about. It's a lot easier to clean up the solid poos. Like, we haven't.
I know.
Lisa's
I'm ready to
gagging
jump
over
in
here.
so hard on the solid poops. Continue, Leah.
The blowouts beforehand were so bad. The yellow, just like losing clothes over here or cleaning them being stained, all of that, this, that, and the other thing. The solid poops, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So I have very strong beliefs about this, at least from my personal experience, right? I know that's not the same for everybody, but yes, Danielle, like you said, I find the solid poos to be a lot easier to clean up, but it is slightly alarming that much can come out of a small human.
Oh yeah. And they smell too, just as bad as formula.
I was going to say, I am a very staunch believer in solid poops are the worst. I haven't experienced like turds yet. And my daughter, sorry, 20 years from now, if you hear this podcast, but she has blowouts all the time with all types of poos. But right now it's solid poo blowouts that get everywhere. It smells awful. It has chunks in it. I'm very staunchly in solid poos are the worst. Excited for breastfed and formula poos one day again.
I definitely, we lost a lot of clothes. Like, I actually had to go buy Aubrey 3 to 6 month clothes because of how many blowouts Hannah had back in that time window. So that was a bummer that we lost so many clothes. We also tie-dyed a lot of her clothes to salvage them. You could never tell, which was nice, but it's 100% solid poop. Like, Hannah's poops now too, as a 2-year-old, like you guys say, you can't believe that much comes out of a human being. Like, it is disgusting. Like, disgusting. I cannot stand having to change her diapers, and I have made an agreement with Brandon that he can change all of Hannah's if I get to change all of Aubrey's, and I am all on board with that because, oh boy, it is interesting. So I remember them saying that breastfed babies, their poop doesn't smell. We feel like Aubrey smells a little bit more than Hannah's did breastfed. But then I remember when Hannah went to formula, they started to smell, and I was like, ooh, yeah, okay, all right, I hear what they're saying. And then I was like, oh, I'll take those formula poops any day over those solid poops. So
I think another topic we need to get to is, when do you potty train? That's a whole nother topic we can get to. And then, or elimination communication, it just makes me think about some of those things too. For now, we're in solid poop since my least favorite phase.
I will say, regardless, like, Wes is mostly eating solid foods now, but when he was still taking a lot of milk and eating solids, blueberry poops were the worst. And they still are. Blueberry poops trump anything else.
Those are bad. Those are bad. Hannah loves blueberries and they are gross. Raisins right now are bad too because she doesn't like chew them at all. So you get full raisins in her poop. I'm like, this is not okay. Yep. Poop talk.
Oh my gosh. Well, on that note, should we wrap for the week? Had a lot of topics on this second trimester here. And next week we'll cover the third trimester. And then we'll get into our our birth stories. And then we'll talk through the next phase of motherhood. But with that, Leah, do you want to close this up for the day?
Yeah. Now that we're live, please give us a follow and rate us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We're soon going to start taking listener questions, so email us at hello@momjeansthepodcast.com or find us on Instagram and TikTok at momjeansthepodcast.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for listening.